Hi everyone, welcome to the workshop. My name is Eyal Yuvel. I'm a senior solution architect at Soslaz, based in London, UK. And I have passion for learning new technology and new test frameworks. And I assume that this is also for having the workshop that that other will learn new technologies and new test frameworks. With me, first of all, with me for helping me in the workshop. In the workshops, there is a pillar from Sauce Labs that organize all these workshops, and there is Melissa, our SDR, sales development representative. I assume that I pronounced it correctly. That also will help us in the chat if you have any questions about workshops, about something that is not working or recording or something like that. And Alex, she will help me with all the technical questions, presenting or while we are trying to do hands-on. If you have any technical questions, please share it in the chat, and me or Alex hopefully can help you with that. So we have Pillar from Sauce Labs, Melissa from Sauce Labs, and Alex that will help me with the technical questions. First of all, this workshop is free, as you know, but we really hope that you can donate, and this is the link. Maybe I can, or Melissa, or I will share this link. Just a moment. Where is the link? I will share this link in the chat. And chat. Okay. Thanks, Melissa. So this workshop is for free, but it's for good cause. So if you can donate, it will be nice and good. Before we start, there is the preparations. I notice if we take a look in my, and I will share also this link. Okay, so this is the repository. I can see that not there are many people here, but I can see that the fork, as you can see, the fork is kind of 3 or 4 people fork this repository. So so it's fine that you are here to listen and you don't want to do the workshops, so that's fine. If you do want, I will do that quickly, so everyone that want to join with hands-on can do that. In the repo, you can read what are the steps that needed to be done. Just a moment. You can see the steps that need to be done. So first of all, you need to fork or download the zip file, or just you need to have access to these workshops. So if you are using the URL, you can see here fork. First of all, you need to have, of course, a GitHub username account. Hopefully you have. If you click on the fork, you can create a fork. You can create a fork with your username, and after that, you will have a copy of this repository. Okay, I can see that now it's from 4 to 7, so some of you already are doing that right now, so that's good. So first of all, you need to fork that, and after that, if you already have all the Java environment and the Appium environment locally, so that's fine, and you can continue, and you already run before Java with TestNG framework, so that's good. But if not, to make life easier, we are using Gitpod. So Gitpod is this one. This is the open workshop. So Gitpod is a web environment that we can run the repository in the web. So in this way, we don't need to install Java Developer Kit. We don't need to install anything on our local machines. We just can use the Gitpod, and everything will be set for us in the web. Actually, I found and I heard about the Gitpod only for this workshop, and I tried, and it's worked really nice. For that, the only thing that you need to do after you fork with your username, you can copy this URL. Okay, I will put it also in the chat, and just replace the username with your username, with your Git username. So if I'm here, if I click on my name, so this is Sign S-A-L-Y. So this is my GitHub username. So this is the one that I need to replace with my in the URL that I share with you. And after that, I think that's not the main screen, the first screen that you will get. You will need to select which ID, which in how to open the project. I think that in just a moment, GitHub open setting in the preference. If you see the screen, it's in my opinion, it's the best is to open that with VS Code browsers. It's the way that I'm using. I noticed that there is already IntelliJ IDE. That's the IDE that I'm using on my local machines. But in my opinion, it's a better version and more installation need to be done. So faster way and for now, for this workshop is to use the VS Code browser. And after you select this VS Code browser, you will get something like this environment. Okay, so we'll see the project here and the file. If you click on the file, you will see the file here. So that's how it should work. Please let us know in the chat if you have any problem with that. And after that, so you fork the repo, you create, you open it with a Gitpod, and to make sure that it's working fine. You can also see that in my repository. You need to run the commands. Yeah, I can copy these commands. Maven clean test. Let's copy it and paste it here. Okay, and you should see that first of all, something is running. And after that, it doesn't do anything about Appium yet. But you will see that before hook, something is running. That probably the default is to run in the US, because I see that most of you, I'm from the UK, but most of the audience are from the US. Start demo test and after method hook, and that's it. So test run 1, failure 0. So that's to make sure that first of all, we are all in the same page before starting the workshop. Any questions that you have, please share in the Slack channels. Maybe I will wait. I can see 7 people focus, or let's say 6 people focus. So let's wait another 1 or 2 minutes and then we can continue. Also, while we are doing that, to make sure that everyone has, because if you want to run your test, again, you can run, and we will talk about that, you can run your test on your local devices or on your local emulator simulators. But again, since we are many people here and it's very hard to install everything for the workshop, so I found out that it will be much easier to run everything on Sauce Labs. So if you have a Sauce Lab account, that's good. If not, you can create a free account only for these workshops. And when you log in, you should see this screen. Decide if you are in the US West one or in the EU Central one. It's depend on your locations. If you are from Europe, select the EU. If you are from US, select the US West. And for later, what we will need to run, we will need the username and access key to log in to run our automations against Sauce Lab devices. So that you can find in the user setting. If you click on the user setting, and I will generate it after that another repository, you can see here your username and your access key. That's something that you can also need to be available, that you know how to find this setting. Any questions? I don't see any question in the channel, in the chat, sorry. So do you need more time to prepare? If yes, please just set something in the chat. If no, we can continue. Okay, thanks. Yeah, yes means that you need more time, or yes, you are ready. We can continue. Okay, so Tanya, when you said yes, it's yes, you need more time. Ready to continue. Okay, so let's start. So hopefully everyone that want to run or to do the exercise are ready. You're also welcome to here, and the repository is a public repository, and you can try it also later. So I will switch to my presentations for now. And one sec. Okay, I couldn't find this one. Okay, preparations. Hopefully everything is fine. Let's continue with the introduction to Appium. So first of all, Appium, if you didn't hear, and this is from the Appium website. Appium is an open source tool for automating native mobile web and hybrid application on iOS mobile, Android mobile, and even on Windows desktop platforms. I admit that I didn't see anyone that using Appium for Windows desktop platforms. Most of us are using Appium for iOS mobile and Android mobile, but also with Appium you can do and to test Windows desktop platforms. And when Appium say that, from our documentation, first of all, let's understand what is mobile, what is automating, what is mobile web and hybrid application and native application. So, why it's not click? Okay, so native app is all the apps that we are download from Google Play or from iOS store. All the native apps that we have on our devices. So of course, with Appium, you can automate and run your test on your native apps. Mobile web app are web applications that you can run instead of your desktop, also on your mobile devices. And Appium support Safari for iOS and Chrome and the built-in Android device for Android devices. And hybrid app, it's kind of combinations between these two. Hybrid app, it's a web application. It's a native apps, but in the native apps there is a part is a web part that it's called web view part. So the native apps wrap web elements inside that. So all of these three application type, the native apps, web app, and hybrid app are supported, and you can use Appium to create and to run tests on these application types. So when we say the Appium, also it's important to understand what actually we can do. So Appium, from one side, we have all the languages that Appium support: Java, WebDriver.io, JS, Python, C#, Ruby. And when we are using our terminals to run the commands against the applications, our application that is installed on the applications or web applications that install on the device. And when it's run, the native applications return a result with the status or with more information if needed. Okay, so, but Appium, it's not one unit. Appium actually is divided to two units. There is the Appium client and the Appium server. Appium client, should be on your machines, in your desktop, or part of your CI/CD pipelines. And the Appium server can be part of your, also installed on your machines, but also, and that's what we will do in this workshops, in these workshops, the server and everything to the right will be running is in Sauce Labs and not need to be local on your machines. So if this diagram architectures look simple, on real life, okay, it's look something like that. And this is from this website. And if you're not familiar with the website appiumpro.com, it's a very, in my opinion, it's very good website with a lot of information and knowledge about Appium. So from this website, it's the structure or part of the structure of how it really looks like, or the Appium real structure. So from your test script, you run a command. For example, I want to find an element on my app that run on iOS device. From here, I'm calling Appium client. From the Appium client, I run this command is sent to the Appium server. From the Appium server, there is, because this is iOS in this case, so there is a driver that called XUI test driver. And from this web XUI test driver, it's called to WebDriver agent. WebDriver agent is a component that Appium installed on the device. And WebDriver agent called to XUI test. XUI test is actually Apple component that know how to talk with the real device. And our commands run all of this, need to pass all of these components, find the elements, and now all the way back with the element that was found, hopefully was found. And we can split this diagram, and the test script and the Appium client need to be on your local machines or part of your pipelines, and everything for the right, and that's what we will do in this workshop, can be on your machines, but also can be in cloud solutions such as Source Labs. Okay, so this is the structure in the high level. When we are talking about Appium, most of us know about Appium Desktop because Appium Desktop is the way to find elements that I assume that everyone that use Appium use in some part of the developing a new script need to use Appium Desktop. So in the past, Appium's Desktop actually contained the Appium server and the Appium client in the same tool. Okay, so in the Appium Desktop, you can, in the past, you have the start server, and in this way you start the server, and after that, and this is the server part, and from the Appium server, you click and you get the that you can add your capability and connect it to the device, and that was the Appium client. So in the past, I think in the past, I mean last year and before, Appium Desktop was both. You download and install Appium Desktop, and it was the Appium server and to Appium client in the same tool. Okay. Now these days, or in the last few weeks, Appium Desktop or Appium community actually split Appium Desktop for two components, for two installations. So now Appium Desktop is only the Appium server, okay? And you can see here that in the README of the Appium Desktop that it says that Appium Desktop, it's basically a graphical interface for Appium server. So in this case, and that's something that I wrote in my README in the repository, we don't need Appium Desktop because again, all the Appium server is done on Source Lab side, so we don't need to install the Appium server. But it's basically a graphical interface for the Appium server. And when you install Appium server, so actually even that, if you look for Appium server, you will find and download Appium server. You download Appium Desktop. But if you run Appium Desktop, you can see in the title that actually in the title it's called Appium Server GUI. So you download and install Appium Desktop, but when you run Appium Desktop, you can see that this is Appium Server because that's what Appium Desktop this day. It's the Appium Server. It's a nice GUI to run Appium Server. Okay, so, okay, and when you run it, we can see that we welcome to Appium. We can see the version that now I run Appium Server version 1.22.2. And again, that's the Appium Server part. Appium Inspector is the new Appium client, okay? And that's the new, so now Appium Inspector is a new component, and now Appium Inspector is only for Appium clients. Also, if you take a look in the Appium Inspector README, you can read that Appium Inspector is basically just an Appium client, like WebDriver IO, Appium Java client, and others, Pythons and C# and Ruby. It's just a nice UI for using to connect or to use Appium client. And if you already, just a moment, and if you already use in the past any versions of Appium Inspector, just there are notifications about migrations. I can see that in the chat, Tanya, you said that you are new to Appium, so you don't need all this migration note. But if you already used in the past Appium client, so maybe you need some kind of migrations about the past that you are using, but probably because Appium Inspector is quite new, so maybe you don't need to do anything. So we have the Appium Desktop for the server and Appium client, Appium Inspector for the client, and hopefully part of the preparations for this workshop is also to install Appium Inspector. So hopefully all of you, or at least most of you, install Appium Inspector, because with Appium Inspector, I can also show you how to connect to Source Labs and to find the elements that you can add after that to your JavaScript. So my best practice is when you start to develop a new script, use Appium Inspector to find what are the capabilities that we will talk soon, how to find the elements. So first of all, you can do most of the things in Appium Inspector. If everything working fine with Appium Inspector, mostly you can kind of copy the capability to your Java code or to your Python code or WebDriver IO code, and it should work out of the box. But if it's not working from Appium Inspector, probably you will also have problems to run it from your Java code. Okay, a few slides that if you do want to install Appium Server, again, we don't need that for this workshops. So again, you can use Appium Server, but if you can, it's better in my opinion, because you have more control and more options that you can install Appium Server without the Appium Desktop. For that, first of all, you need to install Node. And here I mentioned a few ways to install Node, or to use the Node.js, or use NVM, Node Version Manager, that in this way you can download different versions of Node. Or for Mac, you can use Homebrew. And after that, when you have you install Node, you can run npm node command npm install -g, meaning to install it on globally Appium. And also, it's better also to install Appium Doctor, because with Appium Doctor, you can get a report about the status of your Appium server, if something is missing, if your environment are missing, or what, and also suggestions what can be done to fix that. So again, that's not something that we need for this workshop, but if you do need for the future to have Appium server on your machines, you need first of all, or to use Appium Desktop, that's out of the box is Appium server, or install Node, and after that install Appium using the npm commands. Okay, so we mentioned that we have a lot of tools that we can use to run, many languages that we can use to develop Appium test. And in this workshop, we are focusing on Java. Okay, and I wrote a few steps, what are actually, and that's the step that we will do during this workshop. So the first step is create Java project, and that's something that I already did, but I will share with you about this project. So there is TestNG, JUnit, JUnit 5, Cucumber with JUnit, Cucumber with TestNG. There are others open source frameworks. There are paid framework in the market. So any Java framework that you can actually connect, using that to connect to WebDriver protocol, that's Selenium and Appium, you can use as your framework to develop your Appium script. After that, we need to install Java clients. So install Java client, and again, in this workshop, I'm using Maven, but you can use Gradle. I see that Maven and Gradle are the popular tools to install dependency. And we need the Java clients, Appium Java client actually, and we will talk about that actually, to be able to run Appium command, driver find elements, click on elements, or scroll on the screen. Everything need to be done because can be done because we have because we installed Java clients on our machine. And after that, we need to start an Appium sessions. And actually, the first workshop will be on from point 3. We will I will explain to you about how to create Appium session, what are the capability, and we can try it by ourselves. Okay, and again, this is from Appium Inspector. If it's working from Appium Inspector, I can kind of not copy paste, but I can use the same capability with the same value also in my Java code. And after that, I create. I have the Appium driver. I actually connected to my device. I can develop my business test case, run actions, click on elements, syntax, click on the buttons, scroll, perform gestures, and of course, it's very important. Part of our test is also add assertions. Okay, we want to verify that we did something, we are doing something, and we want to make sure that the button is visible or clickable or appear on the screen. So we are doing some kind of actions, and after that, we add assertion to make sure that if our test passed or fails. And after that, we need to stop the Appium sessions. We need to kill the sessions. So we need to kill the Appium drivers. And actually, this command, it's to stop the executions. And also, because we are using real device, we actually release this device. And if you're running on source lab, so this device is actually now in a cleanup process and back to the device, to the pool of devices for other users that can be used by other users. So that are the 5 steps that we will talk or we will do during these workshops, and we will do that for Android device and for iOS device. So first of all, the first point is create Java project. Okay, so that's point number 2. So if I'm back to so the project that you can see here, and hopefully if you clone it, so this is the Java framework, and I'm using TestNG. I know that some of you are probably using JUnit 4 or 5. I admit that I like JUnit TestNG. It's much easier for me to use the TestNG XML file to run in parallel or to define parameter that I want to use. So the structure, so the structure of TestNG project. So if I go to the POM, and the POM is for JUnit 4, 5, TestNG, most of are using or any Maven project. Okay, so I can see that I define that I'm using TestNG. Also because, and this is a TestNG version, so I'm using the latest versions of TestNG. And if you don't know how to do that, so if you need to understand what are the, actually, how do I know what is needed? So if you go to Google and you will do TestNG Maven, okay, so probably this is the page that you will see. You can get that the latest versions of TestNG is 7.6.1. This is the version that I use, 7. Oh, okay, I need to update that. So this is the latest versions of TestNG, 7.6.1, and actually you can copy this dependency to your POM file, okay? If you like or prefer Gradle, you can also see that you can switch to the type of Gradle, and you have the command that you can do that in Gradle. But again, this project is about, it's a Maven project, so I copy paste this dependency to my POM file. back to here. Okay, so I added a dependency of testng, and in testng there are hooks. Hooks are all the annotations that I can add to functions. So if I go to just a moment, demo test. Okay, so for example, here I had the annotations, I created functions and I add annotations before method. So this method will be called before each test that run, okay? And test is those are the tests that will run, and after method, it's if I'm heading the hook after method, this is the method that will be called in the end of the run. And this is why when you run the test, just one before that, and in our POM file, because I want to use testng and I want to use XML file that will run my test. So this is an XML testng XML file. I have the test and I define here that I want to run the test that in com demo test. Okay, so com demo and demo test. So this is the class that I want to run. And in this class, I have only one file, so only this file will run. And the XML is run. And as you remember, when I run the commands, I run the commands with, just a moment, I will move it up. I run the commands with Maven clean test -d test and g XML file, okay? So why it's -d test and g XML file? This is because here in the POM file, again, where's the POM file? Just a moment. In the POM file, I define these properties. I define testng XML file, and the default is, sorry, this is the directory, and this is the XML file, okay? So this is the default. So even if I'm not using testng XML file, if I remove that, because the default is to use this XML file, so in this case, I will get the same result, okay? So I'm running this XML file, and in the POM file, I defined that I want to use XML file and the path to the XML file. And in this way, when I run my files, Java or testng XML, Java or the testng framework know where to find the XML file, and they will run this file for me, okay? And this file is pointing to the demo test, and the demo test is and the demo test is here, and this test will run. So we can see that before method is running first. So this is why I can see here before method hook running method demo test, okay? So this is from this print. After that, the test is running, and I'm printing start demo test. So I can see here start demo test. And after that, in the end, I'm printing after method hook. So I can see this message here. So this is why, and this is the framework in general. I'm not running any Appium, not locally and not on SourceTop for now, just to make sure. And this is the sanity test, first of all, to make sure that everything is running. If you have any issues with that, please let us know. Let's just quickly understand if there are any questions in the Slack about that, in the chat. Sorry. Okay. The SourceTab fork for Appium Inspector is nice. Yes, I agree. It's really helping. Can we do parallel testing with Appium? The question is yes, and this is part of the workshop. Okay, so just to give motivations. Okay. So if I go to just a moment, I cannot see it, just. Okay, so in the workshop, okay, so if I log in to SourceTab, okay, so in the end of the workshop, hopefully, what I want to see is that if I run this XML file, okay, so I can point to this XML file. No, it didn't save. Okay, so My demo test, my demo parallel, my demo parallel test. So if I run this file, okay, so if I run this file, and this file contains two entrants, so, and this is what I want that in the end we will understand and will run. So now actually, if I switch to Sauce Labs, I should see, hopefully. So let's see. Okay, so first of all, I'm running it on US, and I will explain if someone here from the EU, I will also show you how to run, how to change it to run in the EU. You can see that two tests are now running, one on Appium, or running two Appium command, Appium test, sorry. You can see that it's running Appium and Appium, one on iOS, one on Samsung, and they're running in parallel. If I just open, let's open the iPhone test. So soon the application will be installed and a few commands should be running. So that's the motivation. That's what actually I want to achieve during this workshop. That in the end, all of you will understand how to do that, how you can run in parallel a test. And again, this test is running on Sauce Labs, but you can run it, if you understand this one, you can also run it on your local simulators, emulators, or on your real device, actually. Okay, so that's what I want to achieve during this workshop. Okay, so for the question, if we can do running parallel testing on Appium, yes, you can do that. I'm using TestNG, but you can also do that in JUnit 4, JUnit 5. It's a different way of running in parallel. And in my opinion, TestNG, it's much easier. This is the reason why I choose this framework for this workshop. And also, if you're not using Java, so of course, with all the other languages, WebDriver, JS, Python, Ruby, C#, every, actually it's called binding, every Appium binding, you can do that in a different way. So hopefully everyone in the same, we are all in the same page about this framework. So now we have the framework, the TestNG framework, and we managed to understand that, yes, we managed to run a simple test, and that's it, okay? Now let's back to the slides, okay? So, yeah. Okay, so the step number 2, before we are jumping to number 3, that we will start the workshop, it's install Java clients, okay? This is the Java language binding for writing Appium test, okay? So again, if I search for Appium Java client Maven, okay, so the first link should be the Java client. The latest version is 8.1.1, okay? And again, you can copy and paste it to your framework. This is, I already did that in our case. So if I go to the POM file, okay, so you can see that I already installed the Appium Java client, and the version is the latest version 8.1.8. So actually, for this workshop, the only dependency that you need is the dependency of TestNG and the dependency of the Appium to install the Java clients, because without that, all the commands that we want to do will not work, okay? Driver.find elements, click on element will not work if we are not installed the Java client for Appium in our framework. So back to the slides. So install the Java client. We install Java clients. Again, the latest version is .1. And after that, and this is to be able, so actually with Java client, we install the Appium client. And in this way, we can use the functions of Appium server and to run our code and to use these functions to run commands on the real devices or emulators, simulators. Okay, so that's number two. Number three, and I will explain number three, and then we can jump to the first exercise, first assignment, start and Appium sessions, okay? So we need to define the Appium desired capability and create a driver. And the driver can be Appium driver, it can be Android driver, iOS driver. But mostly if you are running on Android, it will be Android driver. If it's iOS, it will be iOS driver. But also you can use, if you don't need something specific for Android and iOS, you can also define that it will be Appium driver. Okay, and what is the meaning of that? That let's say that this is the device. Okay, so this is the device that I want my application to be. I want that the app will be installed on this device, and I want that my test will run on this device. That I will run my commands on test. I will test my code on this device. Okay, so that is. So first of all, we need to define and create the capabilities, and after that, there are a specific capability that we need to add. Okay, so this is kind of must because we are using Android. So we have the platform name capability with the value Android and the automation name capability with UI Automator 2. In the past, there are other automation names. For example, there is UI Automator 1, there is Espresso, but I assume that 95% of the user that use Appium in the automation name, they will use UI Automator 2. And this is the device. So I want to connect to this specific device. So for that, I need to define a device name with the name of the device that I want to use. Okay. Also, I want to run on Android 10 in this case. So I also need to define a capability that called platform versions with the version that I want to run. And I want to run a number of versions 10. Okay. So now I define the device, but I also need to install my app. Okay. So I also need to have app capability with app capability with the location, with the path. Where is the APK? Since this is Android, so I need so I need the path to the APK files. For Android, the files that we can install is APK. For iOS, if it's a real device, it's IPA. If it's a simulator, it's zip file. But we will talk about that in the iOS part. So there are different ways to run or to define what is the app on Sauce Labs. One of the ways is that I can point to a global and open repository, because in this way it's much easier for this workshop. I don't need to tell you to download the APK and to install it on Sauce Labs. You just can point it to the GitHub where the locations of the APK and the APK, the app will be installed on the device. And for Appium, sometimes, but in this case, sometimes you need also to define app wait activity, which activity that's part of Android. Android is there is a package name and activity name. So sometimes we need to wait for specific activity before we can start our test. So also we need to define what is the wait activity. In this case, this is the name of the activity. Yes, and this is from the link to the repository where I download. So I am using the APK, the path to the APK to install. This is the repository of the application that I'm testing. So I copy the path to this APK. And because we're running that on Sauce Labs, we need to add some also different capability that's unique to Sauce Labs. If this capability is unique only to Sauce Labs, we need to define another capability that we can call it any name, but Sauce Options, it's just an easy name. And for that, we need to provide to Sauce Labs actually how to connect to Sauce Labs. Okay, so we need to provide the username and the access key that I showed you before. Okay, and I need to add this capability to the main capability. And actually, that's it in my opinion. Okay, and after we have the capability, we need to create the Appium Appium drivers, okay? So because we are running now on Android, so I need to define Android driver. And I mentioned here 2 endpoints, one for the SOSLabs EU data center, one for the US data center. In real life, probably you need only the one that you want to run. So in my case, because I want to be able to demo it also for US and also for EU, I have a flag that I can change between US and EU. And so I can run my tests on EU and on US. But again, if you are only on US, the only endpoint for you, it's the US West one. If you are from Europe, the EU Central one, from India, you can use both of them. I think that the distance, it's more or less the same. And after that, I create a driver, new Android driver with the URL, with one of these URL and the capabilities that I defined before. So after this command driver, now I have the driver in my hand and I can continue to develop my business flow. Okay, with this driver, I can find element, I can click on element, but first of all, I need to have the driver, and now I created the driver with the capabilities and with the URL, with the endpoint of the URL. Okay, something that I need to mention about the device name. Okay, so before that, I mentioned that I want to use this ID. With SOSLab, you don't need to mention exactly what is the device that you want to use. You can use regular expressions, okay? So, and these are example of regular expressions. For example, in the device name, you can define iPhone 678 ? .star. It means that you want iPhone 6 or iPhone 7 or iPhone 8, or in Samsung, or for Android, mostly I'm using Samsung.star. It means I don't care which Samsung, just find me available Samsung. Any available Samsung will be fine for me. Also, the platform versions, I mentioned 13 or 10 in our case, but also mostly for iOS, if I mention 13, it can be also 13.1, 13.2, and all the families of the 13. If you want only to run on specific versions, for example, you want version 13.2.3, so in the platform version, just mention the full version name, 13.2.3, for example. Okay, so that's in our exercise. We will not mention a specific device name. We will say something like Samsung.star or iPhone.star. Any available Samsung or any available iPhone will be good for us. And all this capability that I mentioned, you can also find in the Appium website. In this website, you can find out general capabilities and specific capability for Android UI Automator 2, and specific capability that are only for iOS. But what I mentioned here, that's the main capability that we will also use in our workshop here. Okay, so I talked too much in my opinion. What's the time now? Okay, so after almost an hour, after 50 minutes, it's time for our first workshop. Okay, so in the workshop, let's switch to the workshop. So you can see here that in the repo, we have the exercise and we have 4 workshops. Actually, we have 5 because I also want to run in parallel. This is the first workshop. Okay. First of all, if you want to run, on US, I think that the default is US, but if you want to run on EU, you can go to the config Java, just change it from US to EU. Okay, save it, and now the region will be EU, and the test will run on EU data center, not US data SOSLab, the US data center. So in the first exercise, what we will do, I remarked part of the code that I want you to understand, and if you understand, to unmark them. As I said before, we need to create 2 capabilities. one for our main capability and one for the source capability. Here I defined what are the capability, platform name, automation name, Appium device name, Appium platform versions, and those are the value. They are not in the same order, so you need to understand what platform name, what is the platform name from these four options, and what is the automation name. I already added for you, so you can unremark this one, that the app capability, and that's pointing, and the app wait activities. And also, you can also, if you understand, unremark this one, and that's for using your username access key, and add that and add them to the main capability. And also, you need to unremark this one. Okay. The test again, the test for now, it's only to run on Sauce Lab test. You were not doing anything, just in Sauce Labs. You will manage to see that Android device, any available Android device version 12 should be selected and do nothing. So the app that we define here should be installed, and that's it. And the session should be closed, because for now our test is empty. We are not doing anything. And also, something important that I also need to add is in the end, in the after method, that's the TestNG hooks that will run in after each method, after each test. We want to quit. So this is the quit command, and to release the device. So that's number 3. Number 4, also in the XML file. Okay, so now the XML file is pointing, where's the XML file? The XML file is pointing to demo test. Okay, so it's pointing to this test that actually do nothing. I want that in the end, and when you finish with the exercise, you need to point this one to exercise. So you need to change it, and instead of com demo demo test, you need to change it to com demo exercise dot ex1 create Android driver to this file. Okay, so this is number 4. Yes, and after you finish that, in the terminal, run the command maven clean test, and this test should run for you. Is it clear? If you have any questions, let's give it 10 minutes, I assume. Let's give it 10 minutes. And after that, we can do it. I will show you in the answers. There is the answer. If you want just to jump for the answer, you can take a look in the answers. I really recommend try it by yourself. Oh, something that's important that I forgot to mention, that here in the preparations, that you need to have the username, source username, and source access key, because as we mentioned as I mentioned, when you're using here, you need to provide the source username and the source access key. Without that, we will not know who actually tried to run the test, and you don't have access to Sauce Lab. So the source username and the source access key, again, can be found here in the user setting. Okay, this is my source username, and this is the source access key. And you need to run these commands. So you need to run the commands, this command, and change. I will put it in the Slack channel, and change the source username with your username, and run this one and replace it with your access key. And after that, when you are doing something like echo, let's do source username. Okay, you should see that you can see your username here. So it means that it's connected. That you installed or you not installed. You set your source username, and you need to do the same for the access key. Questions? Tanya, please make sure that you are running this command when you are inside the repo. So for example, you can see that pwd, I am in the need to be in the repository. If you are outside of that and you run the maven clean install, you will not find the POM file, so you cannot run it with that. The test seems to run okay, but I don't see the report in Sauce Labs. So Ben, make sure that you are connected to the right data center. So make sure that you are running that from here. Make sure that you are in the US West 1 or EU. It depends your locations. And you should see that if you go to automated test result. Also make sure that in the environment you are in the real devices and not in virtual devices. Okay, so maybe you are in the virtual and not in the real devices. So make sure. Yeah, that's what Alex asked. And okay, so let's do it together. So hopefully after that, so this is the answer for that. Okay, so again, I am here in the config. I'm in the US. I can change it, but for now I'm running on the US data center. Okay, so before hook, I uncommit. I remove the commits from these two lines. Those should be the capability, platform name, Android, automation name, UI Automator 2. The device name is Samsung.star. I don't know why it's didn't work for someone here. And the platform version 12. Also, if you want on any Samsung device, you don't care about the platform version, you can also run something like that. So it's mean that I want to run my test on any Samsung device. The platform version doesn't important for me. Okay, so that's also one way to run it, or also possibility to run it. And the app is pointing to the APK file, and this is the activity, the app wait activity that I need to use. Those already here. Please make sure that you define the source username according to this one. So again, if you need, and if you copy this one, okay, so remove everything, okay, and equal and your username, okay, for example, okay, so just make sure that you are defining the username and access key, because without, you cannot run it on SOSLab because you cannot connect to the SOSLab cloud, okay, so username, access key, and add that to the source options. Here, the test is empty, we are not doing anything. And in the end, I also run the quit command to release the device. And if I want to run it from the POM file, from the XML file, so let me maybe rename, just copy paste this one. And in the XML file, instead of demo test, you should run exercise, but here I will point to the answers dot. Okay, so I want to run this class. Okay, so in the XML file, I want to run this class. Okay, so I want to run this one. And if I run or Maven clean install, okay, so my tests start to run. I am located, my region is the US. And if I go to SOSLabs, to the US, under automated test results, okay, hopefully soon something need to start to run here. Sunday. So I'm not sure that I'm connected to the. One second, let me log out. Not this one, this username. Okay, so this is the test completed, demo test. Okay, so that's one that run right now. I click on the demo test. And you can see that actually nothing here. I didn't run anything. I just, okay, I just installed the app and that's it. So you can see here that the app was installed, this app was installed, and nothing else. Okay, so this is the app that I installed on the device in the metadata, but there's no commands, no Appium commands, because we just installed and delete. We killed or quit the device. So this is the exercise 1. Hopefully, Ben, Tanya, and all the other that try it, and I saw that you have some issues. Maybe you can try it later. And if you have also question after, we can stay after the workshop and you can share the screen and we can work together why it doesn't work for you. So this one was the exercise 1. We create Android driver. We create Android driver with the needed capability. Where it is, just a moment. Okay, and we run it. Hopefully everyone are good here, and we can move to the second part of actually create a business flow for that. Back to the slides. Where's the slides? Okay. So assignment 1, hopefully you understand now how to create a capability, how to connect to an Android device. Now let's continue to the second assignment, and for that we need to use the Appium Inspector. Okay, so Appium Inspector will help us to find elements on the device. We need, and with that, after that, we will define the capability, and that's more or less the capability that now you used. Okay, you click on the device. You started sessions, and you are located, and the device is allocated for you. And here you can use the Appium Inspector to find the elements. Okay, to find elements. I think that I will show you how it's done. Okay, so when I start Appium Inspector, you should, if you don't see Sauce Labs here, you can click on the select cloud provider. You will see all the cloud provider and choose Sauce Lab from the list. After that, set your username here, set your access key here, which data center you want to use. This is the capability. I can copy and share it in the, I can copy it here. I see that I can. Okay, so this is the capability that I used. Okay, where it is, just a moment. Okay, and again, with Appium Inspector again, but in Appium Inspector, you can define your capability, and it's really important to click save after you do you create it. So you don't need to create this capability every time. You just save the capability, give it a name, and after that, every time that you need, for example, you can see that I already saved 13 different capability. So I already have the capability to run on Android and on iOS. So whenever I need to use that, I can just click on start sessions and start the run. So here, the capability are, I'm using Android, any Samsung device. This is the Appium app linked to the GitHub where the application is installed, or I can find the applications. Automation name, UI Automator 2, source options. In this case, I don't need to supply to add the source username and the source access key because they are here. Okay, so I don't need to also to add it in the source options because I know what are the username and access key, and Appium already sent that in this command. And the platform versions 12, but again, you can change it to any version, Appium version that you want. And if now I'm connected to Sauce Labs with these definitions and click US and I click start sessions. So now Appium Inspector, that is kind of Appium client, try to locate the device when a device will be, when Appium will find the device that is Samsung.star, with any available Samsung with version 12, the app that is defining the app capability will be installed on this device. So if I go to here and under automated test result, I can see running. This is the Appium Inspector that now run, okay? So you can see that Appium Inspector and the Appium and the view from Appium from SOSLab, the same. You can see the same applications, okay? And now in the Appium Inspector, you can see that the app that we installed. You can see the source or the structure of all the elements, okay? And here you can see the definitions, the locators and other attributes. So if I want to understand, okay, because what we want to do, we want to send a value for the username, we want to send value for the password, we want to click on the login, and we want to verify that we actually move on to the second page. So if I, from Appium Inspector, I will click on the username. Here in the right side, in the selected element, I can see that I can use or the locator accessibility ID or the locator XPath to find the elements. Also in Appium Inspector, there is something really nice that you can see it here, timing. If I click on this one, you can also see mostly accessibility ID is much faster than XPath. I don't know why here it's XPath is found that XPath is faster than accessibility, but that's type of locator that you can use. I recommend that if you can use accessibility ID, it's better, because accessibility ID will be the same, mostly the same for Android and iOS. So you can use the same locator for Appium and iOS. XPath, if you can notice that XPath include the Android. So for sure, the XPath for Android and the XPath for iOS will be different. So you need to define and to develop two types of tests, one for Android and one for iOS. Accessibility, it will be mostly the same. And if I want to set a username, because I want just to move to the next page, so I can also do that from Appium Inspector. So from here, I can have send key. I can click on that. And the username should be sauce. So I forgot what is the username. Let me 1 second. In the exercise 2, the username is standard user. Okay, standard user and secret sauce. Okay, now remember. So back to Appium Inspector. So the username, click on the username. Click on the username. I can see the test username. Click on send key, standard user. I can click send key, okay? And I'm sending it here. Also, if I switch to SOSLabs, you can see that it's also was sent to the device, to the real device here. Now let's move on to the, now let's move to the password. Again, I'm clicking here on the password. I can see that the password accessibility ID is test password, and click on the send key, come standard user, secret sauce, click on send key, and it was sent to the second one. Now I need to click on the login, and also to understand what is the locator. So I can click here. I can see that the login has accessibility ID, test login, and I can click here, tap. I can also, from Inspector, I can also tap it from here. Okay, so also here I have the option to tap by coordinate. So I can click or tap on specific on the element, or just from Inspector, I can click on the tab and just click on the login. And I can see that I'm in the second, in the products page. Okay, also in the inspector, I should be here. Okay, back to the element. Select elements. And now we need, so we set username, we set password, we click on the login button, and now it's the assertions. How we understand that if the test passed or failed. And for that, we need to find some to just, and that's something that I can show you in the code. You just need to find something here that any element that it's available here, and just make sure that it's available. For example, in my code, if I go to my code, okay, so and that's part of the exercise 2. In the code, I'm waiting and looking for this element, okay, test product. So if I click on this one until here, Control C. Also in the inspector, I can search for element. Okay, search for element by XPath, and this is search. It's not working. Something is not working here. Okay, I could find one element. Okay, and again, also from here, I can search elements. For example, if you are have elements that could not be found, and the developer said this is the elements, you can search for that in the Appium Inspector and make sure that they are available, and you can see that. Cancel, but it's something here. This is the locator that I'm looking. Okay, so this is how to use Appium Inspector to find elements on your device. Okay, so this is how to use that. And now if I stop this one and we can switch to the exercise number 2. Okay, so in exercise number 2, I want that you will use the to create a business flow, sending username, password, click on the login, and make sure that it's working and that you are in the products page. You can find under exercise number 2. Here again, the capability are already here. Okay, so the capability from exercise 1 are already here. Okay, so you don't need kind of do anything with before method. Everything should be ready for you. Also the driver, okay, we create Android driver and everything should be fine. Here, what I want to do is use the driver, okay, so we create the driver, okay? So now you can use this driver to find elements. So this is an example how to find the test username, okay? Find element by accessibility, because I showed you that I'm using the accessibility ID. This is the name of the locators. What I want to do after I found it, I want to send key, the standard N with the value standard user, okay? I want you to do the same for the password, that is also by accessibility, and also for the test login. But for the username and password, you need to send keys. You need to use the function to send key. But for the buttons, you don't need to send key for the button. What you need to do on the button, you need to click on the buttons. After you run the actions, we want to verify that we are in the second page. And how we are doing that, so that's a code that I already developed for you, because it's maybe it's too complicated for the first workshop. So actually, first of all, this is the XPath. That's what we are looking in the second page. So this is the element that we are looking, and this is the locator that we are using is XPath and not accessibility ID like we did here. And we are verified and we are running a function is on product page. This function I already defined here, okay? The Java way of doing things is that I'm waiting 5 seconds, okay? I'm waiting 5 seconds for the element to be visible, okay? So I create an object web driver wait that I set the wait for 5 seconds, and I'm trying to wait until the XPath, the element, this is my element, okay? I'm waiting that this element will be visible, okay? So I'm waiting for the element to be visible for 5 seconds. If after this 5 seconds, the element will be visible, we will return true. If the element after 5 seconds will not be visible, we will catch it in the catch part, in the catch statement, and we will return false, okay? And in our assertions, we want that the assertions, that's the TestNG assertions, but JUnit, JUnit 5, and there is external assertion that can be used, more or less the same, just assert dot assert true, and we want that calling to these functions, the value will be true. Value will be true because we want to find the elements after 5 seconds. If we cannot find the element after 5 seconds, it means that there is a problem, or the login is wrong, or the password is wrong, or there's an issue in our app, and that's the reason why we're actually testing. And we want to make the test to the end, the assertions. We will report that there is a problem with the assertions. Okay. Also, something that I added, number 3. Okay. For now, if you remember when you run the previous one, so if I go to the test result, if I run this one, the status was completed, okay? So we run something and the status was completed. Completed means that the test ran, but we didn't report if the test actually passed or failed. So the test run is completed, but we need to send from our framework, from our Java framework, we need to send to Source Labs what is actually the result of the test, if actually the result is that the test passed or failed. The way of doing that, and I already added this line, just understand and remark this line, is you need to use a JavaScript executor and you need to run JS a command Java, what is the status of the code? And with TestNG, the result is in the after method, the result is here in this information. So you can read the result, you can read this information from TestNG. Again, JUnit 4, JUnit 5, it's done maybe in a different way, but you can have the result in the after method hook functions, and you need to report if it's passed, if it's success. So we need to report passed to Source Labs. If not, we report fail to Source Labs. And in this way, this is why we can see here status passed, failed. This is because we report off if the test passed or if the test failed. We are reporting using these lines, okay? And even if we are running that and there is any problems, still in the final, we need to release the device. So that's done in the finally statement, okay? So again, in the before method, you don't need to do anything before method. All the capability and the create driver, this is part of exercise 1 that hopefully if you didn't have time or you have problem, hopefully now you understand how it should be done. The code that you need to add, it's in the test. We want to find username and send key. We want to find the password and send key and to send the password. We want to click on the buttons, and then we want to verify that we're actually in the second page, in the product page. Report if the status, if the test passed and failed. And as before, we also want to point the XML file to this exercise. And after that, we can just run Maven clean test. So if everything is clear, we can also take another 10 minutes, now 10 minutes to try it. And I can check if there are questions. Okay, so now let's take 10 minutes. So now it's, okay, UK time 5:40, so 10 minutes for now, 5:50, or your time plus 10 minutes. We will return and I will explain you the solutions, or any issue you can also ask us in the chat. Okay, I will show you, Oscar, I can see your questions about to show one more time how locate elements, connection between source labs and our local Appium inspector. Okay, I will do that in 1 minute. Okay, I can see that Alex answered about the Appium version, but I will show you how it can be seen in the logs in source labs. Okay, so this one, Appium versions. And yes, you can also set the Appium, as Alex said, you can also set the Appium versions. If not, is assigned automatically for the latest versions. Why for iOS driver capability, we use Appium only instead of XUI tests. We didn't reach to the iOS part, but also for iOS, you need to, and I will show you that you need to, for Android, you define UI Automator 2, and for iOS, you will define XUI test. So for iOS, you also need to define XUI test, not Appium. Oh, okay. So I'm not sure that I understand this question correctly, but I see from Alex's answer that yes. So not sure if the question from Manor, if you meant about Appium XUI test and Espresso, or to define the capability XUI test. So there are different frameworks. There is Appium, there is Espresso, there is XUI test, 3 different frameworks. But if you're using Appium, so you need to use the capability that define, let me show here. So or you define the automation name for UI Automator 2 or automation name XUI test if you're using iOS. And hopefully I will show you that in the iOS part. Yes, this is the framework. Tanya, you said I missed a step with CD when forking repo. So is it fine now? I don't know. Hopefully, yes. How do we pass the next page of the application? I got the login page, but not next page. Okay, okay, I'm sharing my screen. So first of all, about the Appium version. So if you run, so while you are doing that, I can show that. If you run your test and I run this test, and I can go to the logs and I have the Appium server logs. And in the Appium server log, I should have Appium. You can see that the Appium versions, that is the latest one, or most of, or I think that now it's 2020.3, but the latest, the latest version that we support, that it's 1.22.2. So you can see that in the Appium log. Also in the Appium log, you can see all the commands, Appium commands. In this case, we just install the app and kill the app. Actually, so there's nothing. But after you run this exercise, you will see more. Okay, and I'm happy that Tanya, that you said that you fixed the issue with the fork, so that's good. And about Ben, sorry, Oscar, questions about, can you show one more time how you locate elements, connection between? Okay, so while you're doing that, I can do that again. So let's okay. So again, I'm connected to Sauce Labs. If you have your local emulators, so you need to first of all run your Appium server and locally, and after that connect to your Appium, not Appium, Android emulator like simulators or read device. But for that, first of all, you need to install Appium server, and the reason that for this workshop we are not doing that, because for that you need to install Android Studio if you need to run on Android emulators and Appium server, and it's there's a lot of installation that need to be done. So it's much easier for this workshop to work on from Appium server till the devices, everything is run for you on Sauce Labs. So again, in the Sauce Labs, if you don't see the Sauce Lab, you can select it from this list. You need to set the username and the access key, and to decide which data center you are connected. And here, if you don't have this capability, you just can create a new one, define platform name, that's a text, Android, Appium, device name, Samsung.star, just any available Samsung. The app, the app is, oh, why it's JSON, it shouldn't be JSON, it's a text, okay? The app is the path to the APK file. This is a public GitHub, so you can use it to get the applications. Appium automation name, as we said, for Android, it's UI Automator 2. The source option, this is a JSON object. In this case, you don't need that. If we just want that, it will be with a name. So, but even without that, it will run on Sauce Labs. And if you want, you can also define platform versions. 12, this one is not must. Without this capability, you just will run on any Samsung device, and you don't care what will be the platform versions of this Android. So after you define this capability, you click on Start Sessions. And if I will switch to go to Sauce Labs, automated test result to the data center that I selected, you can see here running. This means that now the inspector, the Appium inspector, is connected to one of the devices. And again, I said that I want Android 12, and this is Android 12. I said any available Samsung, so just select one of the Samsung, and here I can see this screen, okay? And also in the Appium inspector, I should see the same screen, okay? If you don't see the same, you can click on the refresh source, and then Appium will get or will refresh the page, and you should see the latest the same as you can see in the real device. So the question was about can you show one more time how to locate elements? Okay, so here you click on the elements that you want to locate, and you can find here, these are the available locator that you can use. So for this one, you can use or Accessibility ID or XPath. For iOS, there are more that we will see soon. If I click also in the get timing, you can also take a look how long it's take. So if you're using Accessibility ID, it will take you 414 milliseconds to find the elements. If you use locator XPath, it will take you 462 milliseconds to find the elements. This is the locator name, and this is the locator value, okay? And this is the one that I'm using. So you can see Accessibility ID test username, and that's the same as if I now switch to my code. So this is the one that I'm using, okay? So here I said find element, Appium by Accessibility ID, and the value test username. And this is because I just copy paste or from the Appium inspector. So from the Appium inspector, I want to use accessibility ID, and this is the value, okay? So this is the accessibility ID and the value test username. If I want to send them the text here, so I can click here on the send key. I have this button here, and standard user is the standard user, is the username, send key. And now it's a nice UI. This is just a nice a way of interacting with the UI, and I sending standard user. Also, if I switching to Sauce Lab, this is the value here, standard user. The same for the password. Click on the password. I can see that this is accessibility ID locator, and this is the value of the locator. If I click here on the send key, instead of standard user, secret sauce, and these values are in the, you can see this, the value here. So here you can see that standard user you should use for the username, and secret sauce is for the password, okay? And now, where's the inspector? Okay, click send key, and I'm sending it to the here. And now I need to click on the login, so I can select the login. I can, the simple way, and again, also for the login, the locator is, I'm using the locator accessibility to find that, and the value of the accessibility is test login. And this is the same as you can see in the code, what I want you to use, accessibility ID and test login. And what we want to do with, when we found this element, we want to click on this element. So what I want to do with this element, I want to click, I can just click on tab, and I'm clicking on the elements. So if you couldn't reach to this page, maybe, and you are still in the first page, so maybe there is an error with the username, or the wrong username, or the wrong password, and need to be sure. But you need, if you are setting the right username and right password, you should be on this page. Okay, so hopefully, and Oscar, this is the question. Okay, so hopefully it's helped you, Oscar. And this is the way that we actually interact with the applications. Oh, great work. That's great. I hope that it's work from the Appium Inspector, and also from the Java code. Let's wait. Okay, so let's wait another 5 minutes, and we can continue. And still, if you have any issues, I'm still sharing. So if you need, maybe I will share like this one, so you can see the capability. Tanya, I can see that you still failed sanity test. For the sanity test, you don't need actually source username or source access key. So you just need to run a Maven clean install or Maven clean test, both do the same. And in this way, you will run, but again, make sure that you are located in the workshop, inside the repository. So make sure that you are, if I'm doing PWD, make sure that you are inside the Java the Java framework. You cannot run the Maven clean install if you are not inside the command, inside the framework. So from this arrow, it said that there is no POM in this directory. Workspace, spoon, knife. Please verify. So, okay, so spoon knife is the name of your workspace, because here you can see that. So spoon knife, just to make sure that workspace spoon knife is the right framework that you created, because the name of the repo is mobile Appium Java. Okay, another 3 minutes or 2 minutes, and we can continue. Okay, so let's continue. Hopefully, I noticed that some of you will the recording be available for future. Okay, so yes, so the answer is yes, I assume. From my understanding, yes, we're recording these sessions and it will be shared with you. Exercise number 2. Okay, so in exercise number 2, I will quickly show you the answers. Okay, so what we said are the four methods. The four methods we don't need to touch. Again, this is the Appium capability for Android. Platform name, automation name, everything should be like that. The test, okay? So find element by accessibility. For the username, password, login. For the username, we send keys standard user. For the password, we send keys for secret sauce. And for the login, we want to click, okay? We want to verify, so we are adding assert true with the function that I developed, and it's here. Again, I'm setting a wait element, driver wait element, and this is actually the same. If you are familiar with Selenium, this is more or less the same Selenium and Appium, both from the same family. So this piece of code can be used for Selenium for testing web elements or for using Appium to test native elements. This code is the same. Actually, it's the same, more or less the same. You defined the time for waiting. So we want to wait 5 seconds. And here we want to wait that visibility of element locators. And the element is by XPath. So this is, we want that the test products, one of the, it can be anything, okay? We just want to make sure that one of the elements that in the product, in the second page, is we can find it, and this element is visible. So it can be anything. I just pick this XPath, but it can be actually any element that is available in the second page, but it's not in the first page, in the login page. If we found this element, we'll return true. If not, we'll return false. And the assertions, and we're running assertions that we want that it return true. Assert true means that if it will be false, it will be error. And we saw an error. And I added this line of reporting to Sauce Labs if the test pass or fail. So you can just use the same if you're using TestNG. So the results are here, and we know the status of the test, and we report to Sauce Lab according to the status of the test, report pass or fail. And if I run it, okay, so if I run this example, okay, so to run this example, what I need to do is to go to my demo test, my XML file, and to run exercise 2. Develop Android test. Okay, so this is the name of the class. You don't need you don't need, or actually it's an error to add .java, okay, because .java, it's the name of the file, but here we define what is the class, okay, and the name of the class is, okay, and the name of the class is this one, okay. So we are saying what class we want to run, not what file we want to run. So this is the reason why in the demo, in the XML, we define, in this case, it's not in this case, but it's similar to the name of the files, but you don't need to add, or it will be error to add .java because we are not sending the location of the file, but what is the class name. If everything should be fine, so hopefully I don't have any mistake. So maybe clean installed, run this command, and running test suite. Okay, and now back to Sauce Labs. Automated test result. Make sure that you're in the US West 1 test result. And now we are running the demo test. Okay, so this is the test that we run. Again, we define that we want on any available Samsung, but we want version 12. Now the device is allocated for me and the app is installed. And we can see here, standard user. Yeah, it was very fast. Sending username, password, and so the passed here is because we report to SourceLab that the test passed, and we can see here the Appium commands. We send key, we click, and here we verify, so we get the display, and the display is 200. Okay, the value is true. It means that it's the elements that we were looking for. We find the element in the product. This is the element. We found the element, and we verify that the element is visible, displayed. Okay, and again, also in the Appium logs, you can see all these commands. I will not just if you are interested, so you can see everything like post. So this is a command. First, one of the commands. For example, this one is about click. Okay, so we post click, and this one is back from this command. So Appium said click 2000, meaning that the click. So it takes 37 milliseconds to perform this click, and the value is 200, means that it's working fine. So it's returned okay. So that this command was done. So till now, we understand, hopefully, we understand how to define the capability. We create Appium Android drivers. And when we have the driver, we use the Android driver to develop our business flow. Now let's move to iOS. Okay. Where are my slides? Okay, and Oscar, for your questions, the line is to report to SourceLabs the status of the test. So if you see here that it's the status of the test passed or failed, because you can see here that it's passed. So this is a JavaScript executor. You can copy paste this line without any change. You report to SourceLab if the test passed or failed. Okay, according to the status of the test. So we are getting from TestNG, we are getting from the framework what is the status, and we report that to SourceLabs. As Alex also answered. Now let's move to the assignment 2. iOS. Okay, so first of all, same as we did for Android, also we need to define the capability. So some of the capability will be the same. Okay, so still I need to define the capability. Now let's understand what are the capabilities for or the basic capability for iPhone. Okay, so the platform name, before that for Android it was Android, here it's iOS, and the automation name is XUI test, and in Android it was UI Automator 2. So those capability are kind of must if you want to run on iOS device. What else? ID. Okay, so here you can find the ID. And again, in our exercise, what I say that you don't need necessarily to use specific ID. You can do something like iPhone.star, any available iPhones. And also we want to run on these versions. So I can define platform version 014, and in this case, it will be any 14 version, 14.1, 14.3, 14. I don't remember exactly all the 14 versions of iOS, but if you want specific 14.3, so in the platform version, we need to say 14.3. 14s mean any 14s and any families of 14s. And again, we need to define which app to install. So in this case, we are pointing to the IPA. It's very important to understand that APK for Android, this will run for Android real device and Android emulators. For iOS, IPA will be used for real devices, and the build is different when you build iOS app. When you build it for running on simulator, it should be with zip file, not with IPA. So Apple Way is a bit different from Google Way, from Android Way. So here we want to run on real device. So we define the IPA and not the zip file, okay? And the source are the same. The source capability in this case are the same. Again, we need to define the username, the access key. If you want also, best practice also to define the name capability, what is the test that we run. And yeah, we need to add that to the main capability. And when we create a driver, so here I created not Android driver, but iOS driver. This is the same as before. The endpoint for Android, the endpoint for iOS is the same. And just when I create the driver and I just bold the differences, so the differences from the Android is that I need to define iOS driver and to create a driver, new iOS driver with the URL, with the US or with the EU URL and the capability that we defined. Okay. Something that I see that in this case, it's very important to understand that because we are talking about iOS driver and Android driver, those two drivers are actually, oh, it's not clicking, actually inherit or the parent, the fathers of Android driver and iOS driver is Appium driver, and above Appium drivers there is a remote web driver, and above remote web drivers there is the moment I cannot see. There is the web driver. Okay, so this is the so above all there is web driver, remote web driver, inherit from web driver and add more capability or more functionality. Of course, you will use remote web driver when you want to test on web applications. Appium driver inherit from remote web driver and add the functionality for Appium, and Android driver and iOS driver will add the functionality for Android driver and iOS driver. Sometimes you can use Appium driver. In this previous slides, I defined iOS driver, and before that I used Android driver. I know that a lot of companies that actually are using Appium driver for both Android driver, for both Android and iOS. That should work. Just something that you need. That's something that you need to remember, that sometimes there are specific functionality that will work only for Android and it's not available for iOS. For example, from Appium website, driver toggle Wi-Fi to change the state of the Wi-Fi. As you can see here, this is only available if we take a look in the support in Appium server. In the iOS, it's none. This command can only run on Android. So if you define your driver as Appium driver and you are running on Android, you cannot, and you want to change the state of the Wi-Fi, you can't use this command because you are in the Appium driver and not Android driver. So it depends if you need specific capability for Android or for iOS, and according to that you can define which driver you want to use. My recommendations that if you are on Android, use Android driver. If you're on iOS, use iOS driver, because maybe in the future you will extend your test and you need to do something specific for iOS or specific for Android. And if you will inherit from Appium driver or from remote web driver, you can't actually perform this action or this functionality because it's not supported by Appium driver, for example. Okay. Also, we mentioned just to understand that Appium, it's complicated structure. Okay, but so this is all the driver that available from Appium. But as I mentioned, we are mostly focused on the UI Automator 2 for Android device and for XUI test driver for iOS devices. But as you can see from this structure, and again, this is from Appium Pro, there are so many available driver that supported by Appium, but most of us, also I admit myself, are using the Appium for XUI tests for iOS and UI Automator 2 for for Android. But you can see here the complexity of the Appium. So let's move on to the third assignment. And the third assignment is basically the same as the first one, just for iOS. Okay, so if I go here, exercise. Okay, so here again, endpoint the same. Also here is the same, but now I put here the capability again for Android and for iOS are the same, but the values are different. So you can see here that I set the different values, and you need to understand what are the value that that you need to set. The app, as you can see here, the app is pointing to the IPA files. The source capability are the same. So this code is the same as, this code is the same as for Android, but of course, this line, now we want to create iOS driver. And also here we define iOS driver. So the step are define a driver. Okay, so unremark, remove the remark from these lines. Number 2, create the needed capability. Okay. And number 3, create the driver, the same as for Android, and point your XML file to the exercise number 3 and run your Maven clean test as before. So hopefully that should be more or less the same as for Android, different value of the capabilities, but actually it's the same capability names, but the values are different. And of course, you need to create iOS driver and not Android driver. Hope that it makes sense. Let's give it a try for 10 minutes. And after that, we can, and of course, we are still in the chat for any questions. After 10 minutes, I will show you how to run it, and we can continue to the last, almost to the last exercise. So, by the way, if you want to see, and this is Oscar for your questions, if you want to see which devices actually you have access if you are using a free account, so that's something that I forgot to mention. So maybe it's good to do it now. So if you go to live, and I think that the best way is to go to the cross browser and to mobile real. Okay, so here you can see all the devices that are available that you can use. So that's not, and you can filter. So you can filter to see only iOS, for example, and specific versions. So if you say that you want version 14, so you can take a look here. So all of these 14 should be available, unless maybe something with the free trial is not available for you. I admit that I don't know, but you can take a look what are the devices that you can use. And for example, if you want to use iPhone 11, so you can see that for me, I can use iPhone.stars or iPhone 11 and with version 14. So using live cross browser, go to the mobile reel, and you can see clear, done, and you can see all the available real devices that you can use. Okay, so probably Oscar, you can take a look here. What are the, yes, I'm the US West one. Just take a look what actually you can see here. The same pool of devices that you can see here, you can use in your code, in the automation code. So I hope it's helped. If someone finished or managed to do that, just if you can send in the chat done or that everything is fine. So I understand that at least someone ran it and it's worked fine. Okay, another 2-3 minutes. Is someone finished with the exercise? So Oscar, you wrote that when you remove the capability, it works. So hopefully you managed to run it, the code. So that's good. Hopefully that's good. Okay, let's continue. Unless someone will said in the chat that that you need more time, but if not, we can continue. Okay, so just to make sure that we are all in the same page. Okay, so what you are needed to do here, again, define that you are iOS driver. Okay, these are the capability for iOS. This one is must. Okay, you must define that the platform name is iOS, and you must define that the automation name is XUI test. Device name, in this case, I use regular expression, any available iPhone. This is not mandatory, the platform version. I noticed that in the chat that if you have a free trial, 14 or 12 didn't work for you. So you can just remove this line and then any iPhones can be selected. App capability, the location of the IPA files, the source capability are the same. Username, access key, and add that to the main capability, and iOS driver and not Android driver. And that's it actually. And when I run this one, so again, if I want to run, so I want to run, okay, I want to run, where's the class? I want to run this class, copy, paste to the demo. Okay, and now if I run it, Maven clean install. Go to the automated test results. Okay, now I'm running on iPhone 12 Pro. iPhone 14.8 was selected. I can click on that. So actually now the device is selected and the app is installed. You can see the app is installed and that's it. We'll release the device. Should release the device, yeah. And again, you can see that the status of this device is completed because we didn't send to Sauce Labs if the test actually passed or failed. So the status is completed. So this one was about create iOS driver. Okay, so now we have the iOS driver, same as for Android. We need to define this one. We need to define using Appium Inspector, the client, the nice UI client that we have. We need to define the we need to use Appium Inspector to find the elements and what are the locators and the value for the locators. So those are more or less the same capability that we use now. Again, platform name, iOS, device name, any available iPhones, and everything is like this one. We click on the start sessions, and now we can use the same, click on the username, and we can see the locator. For iOS, we have more than accessibility ID and XPath. We can also use other locators such as iOS class chain or iOS and other locators. Let me show you how it's done. So if I'm here, I already, just a minute. Okay, so I already saved capability. I'm pointing to the IPA files because it's iOS real device. As I mentioned, for real device, we need IPA. If I want to run it on simulator, I need to find the zip versions, not the IPA versions. those are the basic capability. Again, not necessarily I need for now the source options, but it's nice that I have the name. I define here the capability, the credential, username, and access key connected to the US. Click on the start sessions. And now when I'm here, automated test result. Okay, running my test. So now Appium Inspector is connected to this device. The app is installed on this device, and hopefully soon it will be available. Okay, so we can see here the real device iPhone 7 Plus. Again, we define that we want any available iPhones, but version 14 or for the family of 14. So this is the device that was allocated for us. We can also see it here. If I click on the username, I can see all the locators. As I mentioned before in the Android, okay, like this one. As I mentioned in the Android, accessibility ID is a good candidate for the locator because it's the same for the Android and for the same for the iOS. So, and again, I can click on the timing, get timing. And I can see the time, accessibility ID take the longer time, almost 3 seconds. Mostly the XPath is the worst locator to use. Class chain, those two are better options than the XPath. But again, you can see I'm in the username. I can click here, send key, source. Why I always forgot what is the username. Just a moment. And we want the standard user. Okay, standard user, send key. And this is the same as before, okay? Send the username, send the password, click on the login, and verify that the second page, that the products page is as expected. Okay, so here click, send key, secret source. Click here. Okay, and click on the login. Can do it for me. Tap the coordinate. Just click on the doesn't send. Just a moment. The password was not sent somehow. Okay. Strange. So let's try to do it in the like this one, because we are now using a inspector that specific versions of inspector that work with SourceTop. So we can try by clicking on this one. Let's see if it will work. And if I click here, no, something is not working or with my keyboard. Okay, so something is not working with my keyboard. Okay, let's try again. So let's go here. Standard user, send key. Yeah, let's click here. Secret sauce, send key. Interesting. Okay, something is not working as expected, but we can continue even without that. But you understand what is wrong here? Okay, so when we are doing the last exercise or the exercise before, we take a look what is going on here. Something with the application is not working. Yeah. Yeah, I tried to read the HUD, but something is not working. Okay, but I will check it later. So what I want to do in the last exercise, let's go back here. This one. Okay, so in the last exercise, or actually before running parallel, what I want to do is the same as in exercise 2, but now for iOS. So these are the capability. You don't need to touch it. That should be what we did in exercise 3. And in the test name. So again, I add the line for the find the username. I use the same, actually it's the same username, access, password, and login are the same as the Android because I use the Locator Accessibility ID. So number 1 is send the username and password for the password secret sauce. Click on the login button, and we want to verify that we are on the next page. In this case, I'm doing that by the XPath, this XPath. So this function is the same as before, just the locator. This is an iOS locators, not Android locators. But the function as a function, it's more or less the same as the Android one. After that, again, in the XML file, point to this exercise and run your test. Let's give it 10 minutes, and after that we can run, or I will show you how to run the last one of running in parallel. So take 10 minutes. If you have any issue, we are in the chat. So share any issue, or even if you manage to do that, also share with us the success of running that. Okay, we can continue. Yeah, let's continue. Share screen. Share. Okay, so where it is? Okay. So as before, running it. So in the demo test, find the element, test username, send key, standard user. Find the element, test password. All of the 3 are by accessibility ID, and send the key and send the string secret sauce, and find the button test login and click on that. So after this 3, we need to be in the next page, and we want to run the assertions. We are in the product page, and for doing that, we are waiting 5 seconds and verify that one of the elements, again, this is one of the elements you can select any elements that for sure is only on the product page and not in the login page. Just verify that one of the elements is visible. if I run, and again, in the after method, I want to report the status of the test, if the test passed or failed, and of course, to quit the device. In my demo test XML file, I'm already changed it in the break. I changed it to run ex4, and running this command. Test result, running demo test. Okay, so now we allocate iPhone X version 14.8. The device, now we install the app on this device. Okay, so it's too quick, but we set username, we set password, click on the buttons, verify that the product, we can see, we send the key, username, we send key, password, and click on the buttons and verify that we are in the okay, and verify that we are in the right page. Okay, so until now we run one test on iOS, one test on Android, one business flow on iOS. Now we want to run both of the tests together. So running in parallel is done, depend on your framework. So running in parallel, it's done, should be done in the level of the framework. And this is something that's the reason why I really like to use TestNG, because in TestNG, we have this XML file. And here, until now, we run this XML file. And in this XML file, we said, oh, I want to run only one thread, only one test or one instance of the test. And I define here that I want to run only one test, or what test I want to run here. What are the classes that I want to run here? I can define multi-classes, of course. If I want to run in parallel, I have this example, my demo parallel test. Here, I define that I want to run thread count 2. It's meaning that I can run 2 sets like that. So this will be the first one, and this will be the second one. And in each one, I define that I want to run, which are the classes that I want to run. So here I define that I'm pointing to the exercise 2. And here I point, that's Android, the business flow that we developed for Android. And here I'm pointing to exercise 4, the one that we developed for iOS. And in this way, and both are enabled true. So in this way, in the level of the test engine, the level of Java framework, you defined that you want to run this XML files, and 2 of the tests should run in parallel. Okay, so if you want to run this test, until now we run Maven clean installed, because Maven clean installed run the default XML file, and the default XML file, we can take a look in the POM file. The default XML file was was this one. Okay, now I want not to run this XML file, I want to run another XML file. So I need to use a TestNG XML file that I define here. It can be anything. This is my property that I decided. So what I need to do, I will just copy this line. Okay. And I want to run not my demo test, but I want to run, as I showed you in the beginning, my demo parallel test. So I want to run in different XML file. Okay, so now I will run my test pointing to this XML file. And in this XML file, we define that we want to run this one and this one in parallel. And again, if you want to define, you can define more thread. You can define 20 thread, 40 thread. It's absolutely up to how many concurrent license you can use. And if I go to here, test result, I can see that 2 tests now running in parallel, one on Samsung, one on Android, one on iPhone. As you remember, for Android, I defined that I want to run on version 12, and on iPhone, I want to run on version 14. Let's go to the demo for the Android. It's already run and finished. Yeah, so both run and pass. I can also take a look here. Yeah, 2 tests run, failure 0. So all the tests run and passed. And I reported, sorry, where it is? This one. Okay, so in this way, I can run in parallel. Any questions about running in parallel? Because that was also someone asked in the beginning of the workshop. Okay, so those are the exercises that we have for this workshop. Something that I just want to finish with the last slide. 1 second. Okay, running parallel, we're running parallel. Just before we go, okay, so before we go, first of all, this is a link. I will, just a moment. I will share this link in the Slack channel. It's also in the repository, but you can give feedback using this form. Yeah, and last but not least, just few test guidelines that I want to mention, and this is related to Appium, Selenium, Java, any framework actually that you are using. Just to remember that it's very important to, when you are develop your test, try to isolate it as possible, meaning that you will not have dependency between your tests. So actually, if you have, I don't know, 20, 30, 40 tests, you don't need to always run test number 5 to be able to run test number 10. So each test will be isolated and each test will run independence for the others. It's very important. Automate as much as possible, but also no risk equal no test. So there should be added value for your test. So don't decide that I want to test everything, but if, for example, there is a flow that if the flow will fade, nothing actually happen. So there is no point to add this test to automate this test. Try to find out, first of all, to automate the most, prioritize what test that you want to automate, and there should be a risk or should be a value for the test that you automated, that you will automate. Zero tolerance on flakiness. You develop a test, automated test, run this test 1 time, 2 times, 10 times, 20 times on the same environment, the same data, the same device even, just to make sure that all the time that you run this test, it's all the time with the same result, okay? So zero tolerance to flakiness. Make sure that your automated script and your framework is stable as possible, and fast feedback. Okay, so fast feedback is mostly related to CI/CD pipelines. Add your test to run part of your CI/CD pipelines. Whenever there is a change in the pipeline, someone push a code change or do something, run your test and to make sure that everything runs as expected, and not only in the end of the pipelines 1 day before the release, for example. So in my opinion, that's kind of 5 guidelines that are really important, not only for Appium, but for any framework that you are using. And that's it from my side. I hope that this workshop was good for you and you learned something new and you can use that in the future. So thank you all.